Hey, what up, fam? It's your boy Norm, and I am doing just a really quick video response to a reply on one of my other videos on my other page, the one that's closing in on 50,000 hits, the So You Think the Book of Mormon is a Fraud. This guy kind of wrote a book in my comment section, and so I decided I did want to respond to his question, but I'm not gonna type out everything that is there because this is gonna be a 10-minute video, probably close to, just based on the questions that he's got. So without further ado, let us take a look at what Raymond has to say. So now this is actually a response to another response. So he had responded saying that there was no plagiarism in the Book of Mormon, that that Nephi and others just quoted from Isaiah, and they cited their source and blah blah blah. So I responded with 25,000 words from the Old Testament show up in the Book of Mormon, near verbatim. These words show up in the Book of Mormon. So again, that was my response to his charge on plagiarism, that it doesn't exist. It literally does. So I'm gonna break this down into bits and pieces. Get over here to where you can actually see my face and the questions. Break it down one by one, and we're going to answer these questions. So here we go. He says 25,000 words. So what? The Book of Mormon is like over 275,000 words. Besides, if you're plagiarizing, you don't cite source material. So here, it doesn't matter how big the Book of Mormon is. I mean, 25,000 words, that is almost 10% of 275,000 words, almost 10%. And then there are other sources that Joseph Smith plagiarized from. He took from the View of the Hebrews and so on. So it's not just that, but here the other thing is, if you're plagiarizing, you don't cite source material. So the whole, again, he's coming back to this whole issue of they were just quoting Isaiah. There are 13 consecutive chapters of Isaiah in the Book of Mormon. Consecutive. This is not quoting Isaiah. This is literally plagiarizing the book. It's definitional of plagiarism. 13 chapters. Let that sink in. 13 chapters of Isaiah in the Book of Mormon. And let's look at just a couple of things, because again, it's not all absolutely verbatim. Most of it's word for word from the King James Version, including errors. And we're going to look at a couple of those just real quick. I'm going to just bust this out. So again, Joseph Smith, and I'm taking this from MormonismDisproved.org and their thing on plagiarism, and they take the King James and the Book of Mormon and they put them next to each other, and then there are comments as we come down the thing. So first he makes a comment: Joseph Smith copied 13 consecutive chapters from Isaiah into 2nd Nephi with minor word changes. This is clearly excessive. If the alleged original copier, Nephi, had access to the writings of Isaiah, which he would have given the extensive copying, then simply referencing them and providing commentary would have been sufficient. This is clear evidence that Joseph Smith was copying from the Bible to provide filler for the Book of Mormon. Okay, so again, that was the point that I made. There was one that I really wanted to talk about. So 2nd Nephi 14, copying from Isaiah 4. The King James Version, Isaiah 4:5, incorrectly uses the word defense where it should use the word canopy. It was incorrectly translated by King James scholars from the word chuppah. The same error in 2 Nephi 14:5 demonstrates that Joseph Smith was not translating ancient records because, again, this is a translation error. One of King James translators mistranslated the word chuppah to mean defense instead of canopy. Let's look at the verse in context. Again, King James Version, so bear with the flowery language if it's there. And the Lord will create upon every dwelling place of Mount Zion and upon her assemblies a cloud and smoke by day, and the shining of flaming fire by night. For upon all the glory shall be a defense, and there shall be a tabernacle for a shadow in the daytime from the heat, and for a place of refuge, and for a covert from storm and from rain. So that should say, a cloud and smoke by day, and the shining of a flaming fire by night, for upon all the glory shall be a canopy. That's what it should say. That's what it should say. And then when you jump into 2 Nephi 14:5, it says the same thing. And the Lord will create upon every dwelling place of Mount Zion, and upon her assemblies a cloud and smoke by day, and the shining of a flaming fire by night. For upon the glory of Zion shall be a defense, where it should say the glory of Zion shall be a canopy, and there shall be a tabernacle for a shadow in the daytime from the heat. Now here, again, this is King James, 1611. Somebody made a mistake in translating the Hebrew into English. Now, had Nephi had access to these writings, I'm sure Nephi would not have misinterpreted the word chuppah, the Hebrew word chuppah, as defense and not canopy. So the fact that we have a 1611 translation error showing up in a book that was supposed to be written millennia beforehand, this is plagiarism, Raymond. Absolute, unequivocated plagiarism. Let's keep going. There's a couple others. And I didn't even go through this whole thing. But, just with trying to change the wording up. Okay, so here, Isaiah 9 and 2 Nephi 19. Verse 1. Nevertheless, the dimness shall not be such as was in her vexation, when at the first he lightly afflicted the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali, and afterward did more grievously afflict her by the way of the sea beyond Jordan, in Galilee of the nations. Now, this is talking about the Sea of Galilee. Isaiah is referring to the Sea of Galilee. Joseph Smith, in apparently trying to expand or whatever on his plagiarism and trying to change things up, he hits and he says, and afterwards did more grievously afflict by the way of the Red Sea beyond Jordan, in Galilee of the nations. The Red Sea is over 150 miles from Galilee. So here, again, we see if Joseph were translating the writings of Nephi, this would not be an issue the way that it is. So there's that. And we'll do one more example. In Isaiah 14:19, the word raiment is replaced by remnant. In the Book of Mormon, raiment is clothing. So the clothing of the slain, remnant, on the other hand, would in this case refer to the flesh and the bones of the slain, their remains. Joseph either read it wrong or maybe just didn't know what it meant. So Isaiah 14:19, but thou art cast out of thy grave like an abominable branch, as the raiment of those who are slain, the clothing of those who are slain. Thrust through with the sword and go down to the stones of the pit of the carcass trodden under your feet. 2 Nephi, what chapter is this? 24:19. but thou art cast out of the grave like an abominable branch, and a remnant of those that are slain. So, in addition to the 13 consecutive chapters of Isaiah plagiarized in 2nd Nephi, more chapters of Isaiah were plagiarized in 1st Nephi and another 2 in 2nd Nephi, separate from the early ones. So full chapters. 2 more in 3rd Nephi and 1 in Mosiah, reaching 20 total chapters from Isaiah alone. So, I mean, it gives you plenty of ideas of what the, it's clear-cut plagiarism. This is not quoting another prophet. Nephi, who does not exist because the Book of Mormon is false, did not quote Isaiah. Joseph Smith took the King James Version of Isaiah and copied word for word over 2,500 or 25,000 words of the Old Testament and some words from the New Testament. Some things from the New Testament. And then on top of that, he's got View of the Hebrews and other things that are absolutely plagiarized. So, there's that. There's the first question that you ask. So then he says, so tell me, Norm, how did Joseph Smith produce the Book of Mormon? Was he a genius? Well, I don't know if he was a genius. I don't know. But I know he wasn't stupid. He grew up with 2 parents who were teachers. He was a smart guy. His mom, in her book, talked about the fact that he used to make up stories to entertain the family. He was quite the storyteller. And, I mean, this is a dumb question. How did Joseph Smith produce the Book of Mormon? How did C.S. Lewis produce the Chronicles of Narnia? How did J.R.R. Tolkien produce the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings trilogy? How did J.K. Rowling produce the Harry Potter series? How does any author produce the book that they produce? I mean, one, we know that Joseph Smith plagiarized most of his, or at least 10% of his. So this is how he produced it. This is how. Was he a genius? I don't know. Maybe he was. He may well have been. I mean, he was obviously very charismatic. He was smart. He wasn't stupid. Did he make up every minute detail of his story in church history? Absolutely. I mean, let's go to the first vision. One, I mean, now we're hearing that there are up to 9 accounts of the first vision, but we know that there are 3 completely different versions of the first vision, all of which evolve as Joseph Smith's theology evolved. Initially, he only saw an angel named Nephi among other angels. And then he saw Jesus among a host of angels. And then it was God the Father and Jesus. So yeah, he absolutely made it up. I don't see why there's a problem with that. Did he just get lucky when he claimed that Moroni told him that his name, quote unquote, his name would be had for good and evil among all nations, kindreds, and tongues? Yeah. I mean, Nostradamus got lucky with some of his predictions. You know, modern day prophets and so on get lucky with some of their predictions. It's not and then there's another one down here that he asks about, how about when the entire church was just a few hundred members, and he prophesied that this church will fill North and South America and it will fill the entire world. I mean, I don't know that Joseph Smith really thought that the LDS church would go as far as it did. I don't know. But here's the thing. It's not the quote unquote prophecies or revelations or predictions that he got right. It's all the ones that he got wrong. The ones where he talks about even 56 years should wind up the scene of God showing up and so on. So yeah, he absolutely did get lucky. Thing is there are very few prophecies that Joseph Smith made that ever actually came to pass. But there were tons that failed. And that's the test of a prophet. It's not how many prophecies do they get right. It's how many prophecies fail. Because just one, according to Deuteronomy, makes you a false prophet. Just one. How about, okay. How about section 13 of the Doctrine and Covenants? I don't know. And I guess I could have looked it up. So bear with me real quick. I'm going to grab my phone and we are going to look up DNC 13. That's not what I want. 13. DNC 13. Let's take a look. Oh, okay. The Aaronic priesthood. An extract from Joseph Smith's history recounting the ordination of the prophet and Oliver Cowdery to the Aaronic priesthood near Harmony, Pennsylvania, May 15, 1829. The ordination was done at the hands of an angel who announced himself as John, the same that is called John the Baptist in the New Testament. The angel explained that he was acting under the direction of Peter, James, and John, the ancient apostles who held the keys of the higher priesthood, which was also called the priesthood of Melchizedek. The promise was given to Joseph and Oliver that in due time this higher priesthood would also be conferred upon them. So how about section 13? Did he just make up that conferral of the Aaronic priesthood from John the Baptist? Did he even know who the sons of Levi were? Well, one, yeah, he did just make it up. Because looking at the Aaronic priesthood, it looks nothing like the Levitical or the Aaronic priesthood revealed in the Bible. One, nowhere do we see 12, 14, 16-year-olds holding this priesthood, acting out in this priesthood in the temple. Ever. Ever. Two, the Aaronic priesthood was only available, only given to the sons of Aaron. Only. And it's specifically laid out in the Old Testament that this is only for the sons of Aaron. No one else can hold the Aaronic priesthood except for the sons of Aaron. And then we see in the New Testament that Jesus came and fulfilled the Aaronic priesthood and did away with it. And that leads us to the next question. Why didn't he make up the prayer that Peter, James, and John uttered when the Melchizedek priesthood was restored to publish it in the DNC? The Melchizedek priesthood is an untransferable priesthood that is only held by Christ. And that's what it says in the New Testament. It says you are a priest after the order of Melchizedek forever. And that translated forever is untransmutable, untransferable. No one else can hold the Melchizedek priesthood except for Jesus. And we see zero examples of anywhere where Peter, James, John, any of the apostles were given this priesthood. None. Zero. Let me repeat that. Zero. So, there you go. I would like some specific explanations for the events. There you have it. Specific explanation for those events. No generalized professional Mormon hater statements like Joseph Smith was a pervert that married young girls, blah, blah, blah. I give you none of those. I give you none of those. Because Joseph Smith fails as a prophet on the basis of his revelation. I don't even have to bring in the content of his character. He fails on the basis of failed revelation. The Book of Mormon falls on the basis of no evidence. And so much evidence against it, which I've given in the former video and now I've given here. So I will take this, I will finish this, I will post it, and I will link it into underneath your last comment in my other video, and here you have it. So only 19 and a half minutes. So there you go. For anyone else who's watching this besides Raymond, as always, I'll end with something that Ed Stetzer did a picture of, a meme of earlier, and I was tagged in it. But I've said this forever. Preach the gospel at all times. Use words. They're necessary. And until next time, Soli Deo Gloria.